Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and begin. I'm Michelle from Revela, both a facilitator and a coach, and I would like to introduce you today to Andrea. Andrea Fredrickson is our presenter, and she will be leading us through the topic of creating clarity without 2020 vision. She loves researching best practices to help people and companies gain clarity and business results. With Andrea's 30 plus years of experience coaching executive teams and leaders, she's a valuable coaching resource during these challenging times. So if you have questions, I'm going to be hanging out in chat. So again, I'm Michelle, and please go ahead and enter things in that you're looking for or you'd like me to relay to Andrea. And Andrea, let's go ahead and get you started. Welcome.
Thanks, Michelle, and welcome everyone. I distinctly remember a little over 5 weeks ago, waking up in the middle of the night with what might have literally been, my slides aren't moving, sorry about that. I was literally waking up with these exact eyes. And maybe for the rest of you, you've had a similar experience. I woke up thinking, oh crap, this is happening. Things are changing and I don't know what this is, but it's moving and I need to do something about it. Maybe stop and think about when you had that exact moment. But with that moment came so many questions. Questions like, what is this? What does it mean? What does it mean for my family? What does it mean for my customers, our clients, their families, and even just for Revela? And since then, I'm guessing all of you have had so many questions every day. Questions like, I don't know exactly what is going to happen to our supply chain. Are customers going to be canceling products or services? Are they going to be making orders? Do we have money to cover a period of time, a season like this? Are we going to have to furlough or are we going to have to lay anyone off? And the questions keep coming day after day. In fact, today I was just having a conversation before this webinar and the CEO was talking to me about every day there's a new situation, a new challenge that we're faced with, whether it's a policy that we have to change, or it's a decision about supply chain, or it's a decision about employees. And a lot of those things that we have to do require more than just a snapshot decision. It requires a group of people coming together to think through all the pros and cons. And then as you think through these questions, you have to figure out how you're going to communicate that. Things are changing so fast. And it seems as though maybe early on in this process, there were a lot of questions. And those questions we figured out what the answers are, but there's questions about the future. And those questions about the future are a little bit blurry. What does it look like when we get through this season? Now I've mentioned the statement of season a couple times already. And as I'm talking about our current situation, I talk about a season just like the season of spring. So in the season of spring, we typically look for, in the Midwest, really nice, mild temperatures, 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even some 60s. And we expect a little bit of rain because we know that the rain will make the crops grow and we make things turn green. But there are awesome days, like the 80-degree weather we had last week. It was amazing. And then there are days like yesterday and where we had the snow and the ice and the horrible weather. So in a season, there are peaks and valleys. There are good days and bad days. And I think that we're going through this process as a season, just like that, knowing that there are going to be good days and bad days. But again, continuing looking forward, what does our future look like as we progress through this season? And I don't know that we all know exactly what the future looks like for our business. Each one of us has a unique situation. But I think that part of what has to happen during this time is we have to find ways to create more clarity for not only ourselves, but for the people that we work with. Now, Part of that is understanding where our mindset is. So as you think at the very beginning of this process, at the very beginning of our current situation, there are times when we looked and we saw ambiguity and uncertainty. And when there's ambiguity and uncertainty, people fill that space with fear and limiting thoughts. So let's stop and think for a minute. What are some of those limiting thoughts? I can tell you as a coach over the last month, I've heard a lot of limiting thoughts from different people. Limiting thoughts like, we don't have enough reserves to get us through 3 months or 6 months. We're going to lose all of our good people going through this. We can't do our business remotely. There are all kinds of limiting thoughts and fears that are expressed during this point in time. And if we don't recognize that we're going through that and the people that we lead are going through that, we've lost an opportunity. Because the good news is that people have the ability to change their limiting beliefs and fears into actionable truths. So actionable truths, examples might be, over the last year or so, we've been hearing about the economic history and the patterns that go along with that. We're going to get through this and we're going to be fine. We have some amazing people in our company and on our team that are really excited about what we can do to help make things better. We'll be fine. We're going to learn a lot over the course of this new interim normal. And by doing that, this is going to be fun. We're going to try a lot of new things. And some of these things are going to work. And some of these things we're going to have to make another decision about or change our decision. We're going to evolve. Having thoughts about actionable truths is the idea of what we can do to help create some clarity for our employees. But recognize when you find yourself in that space where fear has taken over and now you have these limiting thoughts of what you can't do, we have to recognize what are the absolute truths. Our supply chain may be challenged. We have employees who are scared. We have customers who are limiting their products request or their service requests. There's maybe some realities, but we have to also blend that with making sure that we have communicated our undying belief that we are going to get through this. We're going to do new things and try new things to get through to the next space. That is actually called the Stockdale paradox. And I think that it is more important now than ever to not only understand what the truths are, but also what are the opportunities that we have and the beliefs that we have to help move things forward. This is what's going to help us create clarity for the people that we lead, even if we're not exactly sure of what that future looks like. There are so many ways that we can help find clarity and create clarity for teams that we lead. And in this short seminar or webinar, I'm just going to get you started. So one of the easiest ways that we found to do this is by helping create a company mantra. Now, a company mantra, some people call this is our main thing, or this is our theme, or this is our WIG, our wildly important goal. But what I'm asking you to do is come up with a company mantra, something that people can look through that helps them understand and move the company forward. In our particular situation right now, I'm really only concentrating on the next 60 to 90 days because that will typically, for most of us, get us through the next quarter. But we have companies that we work with that we create these mantras for an entire year. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what a company mantra might be that you can help your team focus on for the next 60 to 90 days. One group we have has a mantra of clarity and innovation. Another one is, we're here for our community. One of my favorites is simplify. Another has a mantra of growth. Specifically, the company is taking a look at, growth has lots of different meanings, but they're specifically focusing on the growth of their people and the connections that they have with within the company, but also with vendors, customers, and their community. And then another example, we had a company that chose to use this mantra for an entire year. What they had noticed is they had done a lot of work creating efficiencies inside their business and learning new technologies, but they realized that many of the things that they were working on were not necessarily of value to the customer, and they wanted to make that shift to make sure that what they were doing really had customer first focus. So stop and think for just a minute. I'll give you about 30 seconds, which is not near enough time. What might your company mantra be for the next 60 to 90 days? And I challenge you to think of what this mantra might be that's not just survive, because that's not action forward. It's how are we going to thrive? How are we going to make things better in the next 60 to 90 days? I'll give you a second or two. So if you're taking notes, this is one of your assignments, is to come up with a company mantra. So now that you've identified what your company mantra is, what do you do with it? So let's look at this example of Simplify. One of the groups that we work with, we've been talking to them about how does Simplify become your mantra for the next 60 to 90 days. And what we did with them is we talked to them about what are the critical areas, what are the focus areas that you think would be the most impactful across your company that people could get behind. And so a small group of people in the leadership team came together, and here's what they came up with. First, reduce the steps required to fill an order. They discovered that there were far too many steps in the process of filling an order that they knew that there's a simpler way to do this. Second, make it easy for customers to do business. They identified that it's hard for people to find them, meaning through social, through the website, through their marketing efforts. They also discovered that it was difficult to find who is the right person to talk to. Or once they became a customer, there were too many contacts in order to get resolution or to get the process moving. And so they wanted to find ways to reduce the number of steps and to make it easy for the customer to do business. Third, this company had grown a lot over the course of the last 8 years. And as you look at those last 8 years, all of their knowledge was legacy knowledge or a wisdom that was stuck between the ears of many of the employees. And you know that as you grow in a company, if you don't have practices that are standardized, the answer to how do you do something becomes, it kind of depends. So what they did is they recognized that they need to get standard operating procedures and recognize that those standard operating procedures need to be appropriate for whoever was working in that area. So it could have been a flow chart, it could be a Word document, it could be screens of things, but getting those standardized so that as new people came on, they could learn and they could improve their efficiency. Fourth one was to reduce administrative burden. For those of you that don't understand administrative burden, it's just how much time it takes to do the support to make something happen. So what we may be doing is finding ways to automate things, create things that you don't have to go back and check and say that you did it. But there's all kinds of things that we could do to reduce the administrative burden. And last, they wanted to reduce the bureaucracy. And bureaucracy was simply just how many points were there necessary to create decisions, because they were finding there were roadblocks that were going through the process. So again, this leadership team, what they did is they took Simplify as their mantra. They identified these 5 focus areas that they now could communicate to their entire company saying, this is what we're going to be focusing on in addition to our regular goals. In that process, they decided as a leadership team that they were going to meet every week and they were going to determine how well that they were doing. Now, this does not take away from the KPIs. We'll talk about KPIs. But when they got together for their weekly leadership meeting, what they did is they said, okay, so the ones that are in green, we don't really have to pay attention to. They're going really well. The one in yellow, we need to pay attention to. But obviously the ones in red, we need to give some more effort to. And how do we help people get through those. So every week the leadership team was taking a score with this, but then teams within the organization could do the same thing. What were they doing to help things move forward faster? So to start off with the mantra. Second, you have the key areas to focus on. And then third, during their leadership meeting, they would take care of their KPIs. KPIs don't change just because we're going through some challenges. We still need to measure the things that are most important. So those three things are very helpful in keeping people focused on what's most important and keeping people moving forward. The challenge, though, is that now that we have all this stuff going on, we need to make sure that we're communicating. And so we've got to communicate all of this information throughout the organization. The, by far, most common topic that I have talked to other people, leaders and coaches about is, what is the difference in communication now? Maybe some of you who are on this webinar, I've talked to about this exact topic. So we all know that during times of evolution and change, the more things change, the more we need to communicate. And what I've noticed with several people is they're not communicating anymore. In fact, sometimes they're not communicating at all. Again, when things are changing and when things are a bit ambiguous, you need to be communicating more often. And so making sure that people know what that mantra is, what are the key areas, how we're doing and what score we're doing in our KPIs. But just as important for creating clarity is you as the leader of the organization or of your team, you need to be in front of people at least weekly, if not more often. And for some of you, I'm challenging you to do this by video if you can, because they can see your face and you're calm. You become a calming influence over the people that you lead. This is also a time where you can do some really amazing things, like giving an update on how we're doing with our themes or our mantras. We can also give some update on customer changes. We can give updates and shout outs to people who have demonstrated the values of your company and become heroes of what's going on. This is a time to make sure that you're connecting the values of your company and people who are demonstrating them so that they're not just words on the wall or on your website. Making sure people know what you're doing, where you're going, shout outs, and responding to who are the heroes of your organization and what they're doing. But also carrying through that entire process, the fact that you care about them as humans, and we want to also make sure that we're getting results for the business. Those two things, empathy and results. These things will help lead to what we're looking for is organizational health. For many of you, you've been working as a leader on creating organizational health in some way, shape, or form. Now is the time that that work is either going to show that it's working or show that it's not. We're looking at an organization's ability to function effectively, to cope with change appropriately, and to grow in ways that results in high performance. And right now, that's what we want to happen. But maybe we need to do some work right now so that as we go into the future and we go into the rest of the year, that we're getting those same results. There are thousands of articles and lots of research on organizational health. And there's not one set of definitions as to what equals organizational health. So what we've done is we've synthesized that information, and we have these 8 areas that we use to promote or to measure organizational health. Companies that are goal-directed and future-focused, that they know where they're at, they know who they serve, they know what they provide. They provide cascading communication, that all the information is not held up in the senior leadership meetings, that it is filtered throughout the organization with a ritual so people know that they are in the loop, that if I can ask the line worker or the person out on location, what are we doing, where are we going, who's our customer, they can answer those questions, and they can know what our changes, that the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. There's coordination, which is a little bit more about knowing what their left hand's doing versus the right hand, but also that we're not wasting a lot of time and resources. Healthy organizations produce results. This is not simply an accountability. Accountability comes because you trust people and that people are doing what they're supposed to, and you put processes into place and create clear communication and coordination. Results are the byproduct that you set forth in your goals. Trust we've already mentioned, but it's not just trust that people are doing what they say they're going to do, but trust is also that they're playing the role that they're supposed to, that they will stand behind you when they need to have someone standing behind and be supportive, and that people's intentions are good. Healthy organizations have an innovation and an adaptation mentality. Right now we may be challenged with all the new ways that we're doing things, or challenged by the way that things need to be adjusted in order to be more efficient or effective. And that we're adapting all the time. This continuous improvement perspective is part of a healthy organization. We don't get caught in the status quo. We measure and manage our resources and utilization of those resources, not only from money and equipment, but also time, talent, and the treasure. And last we add on here is motivation. The people are committed to the outcomes of the organization. They're committed to the culture of the organization. They're committed to trust and all the other things that make us healthy. These are the 8 things that we are working to measure from a healthy organization. And we've been working really hard just recently to finish up an assessment that we're rolling out about our organizational health assessment. And it measures some of these things, but it also rolls into the idea of how do you keep an organization not only healthy, but looking to get the measurements that you want and continuously improve. When we were starting this conversation today, we were looking at the concept that we need to create clarity and focus, and that even though we don't exactly know when the season is going to end, we do know that we want to be here in the future and that we want to provide products and services to the customers that we have, or adjust for the customers that we need to have. It's important for us to recognize that we need to have a mindset that helps us understand, are we looking through a lens of fear and limiting thoughts, or are we looking through this lens that says we have actionable items that we can use to move forward? Manage that Stockdale paradox, where we're managing the side that says we need to look at the brutal facts and understand what those things are, but also have the undeniable proof that and belief that we're going to live through this and work through and become better. Set a mantra. Short term is helpful for people because they can see that 60 days, that 90 days. Set that mantra and set your areas of observation that you want to focus on. The 5 that we mentioned with the simplify is an example, but there are others. Those things and keeping that communication flow going. As we're going through these changes, you're going to need to keep the communication flowing and keeping that ritual moving more frequently than maybe you have in the past. Finding new ways to communicate is really super important. And then if you need some help in identifying, are there areas within your organization that you feel need some help in the health component, or maybe you want to assess how healthy your organization are, we can help you and take a look at that, but look at those 8 areas that we were talking about a little bit ago. Before we go into the last few minutes, I want to know, Michelle, are there any questions out there? That I ran through this presentation pretty quickly, and I want to keep on time with what we're doing, but any questions anybody has?
No, Andrea, so far I have not seen any questions. I have placed in our chat your email address. So as people are thinking, and when we end this and they're thinking maybe throughout the day, if they have questions or want to have a conversation with you about different ways that you can help, I put your email address in there. That will be available for them to save. You've also have on the screen here that Leading with Compassion, which is our next webinar. And I'll be placing the link in chat for that as well.
Okay. We really do appreciate the fact that you took some time this morning, just even if it's 30 minutes, to either be reminded of some things that you already knew, or maybe give you a perspective of things that you could look at from a different way. We'd be happy to help, but we'd love if you follow us on any of our socials. And for many of you, you know us, and so reach out with any questions that you have, or if there's anything we can do to answer any questions.
Perfect. And I'm also placing in chat, we have a toolbox that is set up on our webpage. It's a toolkit with resources on helping you in a variety of different ways with working through the COVID-19. So with that being said and timing, we are looking at 11:28. So, thank you, Andrea, for taking us through that presentation and providing us with that information. Very valuable, and hopefully people are going to be able to think about some of the comments or some of the suggestions that you have there, and will cause them to maybe have some questions and quality conversations between them and their leadership teams. Again, moving forward though, if you'd like, you can register for our next webinar, which is on Thursday, April 23rd at 11 a.m. Leading with Compassion, a requirement for leaders today, which is most definitely. And we, like Andrea had mentioned, would like to have invite you to connect on any of our socials, which they're all at Revela Group on the variety of platforms that you see in front of you. We have been working really hard at pretty much everything that we are putting out is, different tips and perspectives that can help you in everything from looking at managing your business, looking at the future, to helping your people and managers day to day as they are either leading remotely or leading in the trenches. So please check us out for those tips as well. But thank you, everyone, and have enjoy the sunny afternoon. And hopefully you have some things that you will be able to look forward to for this weekend. Thanks again.